Hello, my name is Alex Josh, and I'm an architect in the Microsoft Business Unit at NetApp. Today we're going to be talking about the On-Command plugin for Microsoft Environments 3.0. This scenario is the disaster recovery scenario, and it's based on 2 Windows clusters. This is using SnapMirror underneath, and this is the PowerShell version of the OCPM 3.0 demonstration. So here we have the environment here, and we're just going to start a little script to simulate a failover. So the first thing we're going to do is do a graceful shutdown of the VMs on cluster A, and you can see it here in the UI. They're coming down now. Now what we're doing is we're simulating a graceful failover here, and that they're down now. And we're going to proceed as if the machines have been shut down. And the next step then is to flush the replication queue from side A to side B. And this will just take a second. And we're actually using the PowerShell toolkit to do this. And this entire demo, in fact, runs in PowerShell. And now we're waiting for the mirror to complete. And that operation is completed. Now what you're seeing here on the screen, this yellow text, is the verbose printout from the command. So normally you wouldn't see this, but in the demo we thought it would be useful for you to be able to see what's going on. So in the verbose mode, you can see all the steps that OCPM is taking to begin the preparations to fail this workload over to cluster B. So the first thing that it needs to do is it needs to open up the DR plan. The DR plan was created earlier, and that's part of the preparation for this failover exercise. What the DR plan does, well, what it is an XML file that is actually the result of sucking all the information out of WMI from the source cluster. So what it contains is all the information that we need to recreate everything that was on the source cluster on this target cluster, which you can see is pretty much empty. There's a couple of LUNs here, but there's no workload running on it right now. So what we're doing is we've opened up that file and we're investigating it to see whether or not it's a good file and all the information we need is in there, which it is in this case. So then the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to go look at the target cluster that we specified in the command line, cluster B in this case, and it's going to see if cluster B is a candidate to receive this workload. And this will actually take a few seconds because what we're doing is we're investigating not only the cluster but every member of the cluster. So in this case we only have 2 members in this cluster. It's a very simple environment, but we have to go through each one of the nodes, the 2 nodes, confirm that they have all the correct prerequisites, and that the cluster is ready to receive us. So for example, the source is a CSV, so the target has to have CSV enabled. You have to have visibility into the SAN, all those kinds of things. So all that has completed successfully. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the replicated LUN, which has been set to a broken off status, and we're going to connect that to the target cluster here. And this will just take a few seconds, and this is actually a Windows operation. We're waiting for the virtual disk service to see the disk. And once we have confirmation that the disk is seen, then the next step would then be to present that disk to the cluster. So now we're seeing it says presenting disk to cluster, and in a couple seconds, there you go. You'll see in the background there, you're seeing Cluster Manager now sees the disk, and we have an online pending event. So now that it's online, we're going to convert it into a cluster shared volume. And this will just take a few seconds. What we'll actually do is we'll convert it into a cluster shared volume, and then there's an online pending event. So we're just waiting for that to clear. Once the online pending event is cleared, then we'll be able to go on to the next step, which is actually importing the VMs themselves. In just a second here, we'll see that. Great, so now we're online. And this online file is, this is the CSV online, and now we're ready to open up the VHDs that are in that CSV and actually create VMs. So again, all the metadata, all the information about the VM is actually coming from this XML file, which you referenced at the beginning of the demo here. And so instead of creating new VMs, we're simply recreating the ones that already existed. So these VMs are exactly the same as the source, including information like their GUIDs and all the information about them, like the number of processors and the RAM and the disks and everything, basically everything that exists. Now at this point, we've left the VMs in an offline state because you may need to take additional steps such as reconfiguring DNS or changing Active Directory sites information, etc., etc. But once all that secondary steps are completed, then you can just bring them online. And what will happen is we bring one online here. And basically what happens is exactly the same state the machine was in when we shut it down and earlier in our simulated planned failover. They'll be in exactly that state at the end. And in fact, you see Windows starting up here, right? So everything that existed on the far side, the hard drive, the VHD itself, the metadata information, everything about that VM has been moved over completely to this far side. What we haven't done is we haven't gone inside the VM and done things like change its IP address. We haven't updated DNS. We haven't changed Active Directory in any way. We just moved the machine. So anything else that you need to do, you would do at this point. But that would be pretty easy to script in PowerShell, or we do this exact same thing in an Opala's workflow, and you can extend it in that mechanism also. All right, so that's our demonstration for today. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And please keep an eye on our MS Enviro blog on blogs.netapp.com, where we have more information about this product and other things that we're working on.